Welcome to the debate. So when art historians authenticate a masterwork today, they don't just look at the brushstrokes anymore.
Right, they can't.
Exactly. They can't. They put the canvas under a mass spectrometer, you know? They analyze the chemical substrate because the surface level fakes have just simply gotten too good to spot with the naked eye.
Yeah, the forgery mimics the master perfectly.
It really does. And it's only when you dig into the underlying molecular truth that the illusion shatters. And right now, I mean, that exact same crisis of authenticity has hit the professional world.
It absolutely has.
Yeah. So we are looking at a highly controversial new mandate from the Living Professional Record Academy, the LPR Academy. This is specifically within their Module 7 curriculum update. They have fundamentally shifted the standard for how advisor candidates are evaluated.
A massive shift, yeah.
Right. It now dictates a mandatory artificial intelligence capstone requirement. And my position today is that, well, because clients in the real world will inevitably use AI to generate these highly polished, perfectly fluent professional surfaces.
Oh, they definitely will.
Right? So mandating a rigorous, heavily documented AI workflow in this final capstone is literally the only responsible way to certify true, source-governed AI judgment.
Well, and my perspective on this is that while AI literacy is undeniably vital, forcing its use in the final capstone creates this, a profound pedagogical contradiction.
A contradiction?
Yeah, because the curriculum itself states, repeatedly I might add, that AI is not always appropriate. So by mandating its use as a forced hurdle, the Academy is unnecessarily institutionalizing a reliance on artificial intermediaries. We are risking reducing the advisor's role to that of basically a glorified AI auditor rather than a foundational architect of professional truth.
Well, I get the hesitation about institutionalizing a tool. I do. But we have to look at why this mandate actually exists. I mean, AI has completely shattered the traditional trust environment.
Sure.
It used to be that if a client could clearly and confidently articulate a complex career narrative, you could, reasonably trust the competence behind it. Fluency was sort of a proxy for expertise.
Right, because writing well was hard.
Exactly. But today, fluency is cheap. It's instant. Large language models are, well, they're predictive token engines, right? They don't know truth, they just know statistical proximity.
Yeah, they just guess the next word.
So when a client asks an AI to write their resume, the AI naturally gravitates toward generic, high-impact corporate speak. Because, well, that's what it was trained on. It regresses a totally unique human achievement into a statistical average of buzzwords.
It does, yes.
So clients are going to bring you these AI-inflated claims using verbs like spearheaded or transformed or orchestrated when the underlying reality just doesn't match.
But
because of this, an advisor simply cannot opt out of AI. By making the AI capstone mandatory, the Academy is forcing candidates to prove they can tether that artificially generated language back to reality. They are certifying source-governed AI judgment, not just AI fluency.
But doesn't that contradict the curriculum's own explicit doctrine? The text clearly says, and I'm quoting here, not every task needs AI.
True, it does say that.
It spends pages highlighting inappropriate uses. For instance, when source material is highly confidential or when a client's claims are merely emerging, right? Like aspirational stuff.
Sure.
So if a client is just starting to build a data analytics capability through a weekend course, and you feed that into an LLM, the model will predictably inflate that into a proven enterprise reporting expertise.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So by forcing candidates to use AI in their final assessment, the Academy is demanding a workflow that might not organically fit the client scenario the candidate is even evaluating.
Well,
if the core doctrine of the LPR is truly that the record governs AI, AI does not govern the record, then the absolute truest test of understanding the record should be entirely independent of artificial intervention.
I see what you're saying, but
You are taking a tool notoriously prone to inventing metrics and erasing a client's distinctive voice, what the curriculum calls operational texture, and you are making it a permanent fixture in the testing process.
But okay, that tendency to erase operational texture is exactly why they have to mandate it in the test.
How so?
Because the curriculum is hyper-aware of the risks you just mentioned. The inflation of scope, the invention of outcomes. Let's think about this like commercial aviation.
Okay.
In order to get a commercial pilot's license, you are required to demonstrate stall recovery. Now, you don't stall a commercial jet on every normal flight plan. In fact, it's an incredibly dangerous scenario that you actively work to avoid.
Right, obviously.
But proving you can recover from a stall is absolutely non-negotiable, because the risk of it happening in the real world is inevitable. The mandatory AI capstone is, well, it's the stall recovery test for professional advisors.
I'm not sure I buy that.
Think about it. In an airplane, a stall happens when you lose the underlying lift keeping you in the air. In professional advising, an AI stall happens when a perfectly formatted resume completely loses its underlying factual truth.
Okay, but
The candidate has to know how to push the nose down, strip away the AI buzzwords, and regain the truth. If they haven't practiced rejecting polished but unsupported output in a controlled environment, they aren't ready to save a client from a professional stall in the real market.
taking that aviation analogy a step further, though, really reveals the problem with the Academy's approach.
Go on.
In pilot training, stall recovery is tested as a specific emergency procedure, right? It's an edge case.
Yeah.
What the LPR Academy is doing by putting this in the capstone is making stall recovery a mandatory phase of every single standard flight plan.
Well, no, that's not.
They are forcing the candidate to introduce the exact risks they are meant to avoid just to prove they can fix them. Why mandate that a candidate artificially generate generic professionalism only to force them to spend hours stripping it back down to the human truth?
Because the truth isn't.
It seems to me that we are asking them to purposefully infect a pure living professional record with AI inflation just to prove they have the antibodies to fight it,
You're assuming the record starts pure.
doesn't it?
No. In the modern market, the infection is already in the water supply. Clients are walking through the door with LinkedIn profiles and performance reviews that have already been run through AI.
Okay, fair point, but
The advisor isn't infecting a pure record. They are being hired to triage a contaminated one. And the specific sequence of the capstone script, which we really need to break down, reflects that reality beautifully.
it does. The curriculum dictates that every candidate must demonstrate governed AI-assisted work. They have to prepare a safe source packet, write a source-bound prompt, generate the output, perform an AI output claim check,
Right.
log rejected claims, revise the output, complete an AI translation log, and then explicitly explain what the AI got right and wrong. It's an exhaustive diagnostic process. Wait, let's stop right there. Because if I'm a listener or even an advisor candidate studying for this capstone right now, I'm probably thinking, why am I spending hours navigating this bureaucratic maze?
It's not a maze.
You just listed 8 distinct administrative steps just to use a text generator. Think about what we are actually asking them to do with this safe source packet.
A safe source packet is essential. It acts as a human firewall.
A firewall.
Yes. Before a single word ever touches a public large language model, the advisor has to manually strip out all proprietary company data, client names, internal financial metrics, all the identifying details.
Right.
They are sanitizing the data to protect the client's privacy, which is literally the cornerstone of professional trust.
Look, I understand the theory of privacy protection, but in practice, look at the psychological shift this causes. When your capstone, the ultimate proof of your professional competency, requires you to master a complex ecosystem of safe source packets, source-bound prompts, output claim checks, and rejected claims logs.
It proves they govern the tool.
No, you are centering the technology, not the human being. The curriculum says, AI can help the record speak. AI cannot decide what the record is allowed to say.
Exactly.
But by making this gauntlet the final hurdle, the Academy is signaling that navigating the AI interface is the highest order of professional advising. Instead of being a miner, digging for the gold of genuine professional experience through empathetic listening and interviewing, the advisor becomes a refinery operator, just managing the toxic runoff of AI-generated language.
I completely disagree that it shifts their identity away from the human. Completely. Because the manual mining you're talking about, that has to happen before the AI is even introduced.
Does it?
Yes! The mandate dictates that the candidate must build, or at least partially build, the manual source material before they are allowed to write the source-bound prompt. They have to know exactly what the underlying evidence says.
Hmm.
But let's talk about the specific step that proves they aren't just refinery operators, the rejected AI claims log. This is where the magic happens.
Oh, I look forward to hearing how filling out a rejection log is magic.
It's magic because it forces the candidate to articulate the mechanics of a hallucination. Let's say the manual evidence shows that a mid-level client created a shared onboarding checklist for one single team during a period of high turnover, and their manager reviewed it.
Okay, pretty standard claim.
Right. The candidate feeds that into the AI, and the predictive token engine does what it always does. It spits back, spearheaded an enterprise-wide onboarding transformation.
Which is a classic LLM inflation, yeah.
Exactly. Now, in the rejected AI claims log, the candidate cannot just delete the sentence. They have to physically document. I am rejecting the verb spearheaded because the client did not lead this independently. I am rejecting the scope enterprise-wide because the evidence only supports a single team.
Right.
They have to manually dismantle the AI's lie and write the truer replacement. That is not toxic runoff management. That is the rigorous, muscular application of professional truth against a machine that desperately wants to exaggerate.
But you're missing the core mechanic of what that actually feels like for the candidate, which you just described is an incredibly heavy administrative burden that distracts from the client's actual story.
I don't see it as a distraction.
They have to log every rejected verb, every inflated scope, every invented metric. When an advisor is buried in metadata, compliance templates, and translation logs, they risk losing sight of the operational texture.
But
Operational texture is the specific friction of a job, right? It's the messy, human details of how a client actually convinced a stubborn manager to adopt that onboarding checklist.
true.
AI notoriously scrubs away friction to make things sound smooth. By forcing the candidate to use AI, generate smooth lies, and then log the lies in a spreadsheet, we are making them compliance officers. You are testing their ability to fill out an AI translation log, not their ability to understand the client.
Structure does not destroy empathy. Structure protects the client.
But it's too much structure.
If they don't practice that heavy lifting in the capstone, what happens in the real world? They casually paste a client's highly sensitive internal compliance report into a general AI tool because they want a quick summary, and suddenly proprietary data is out in the wild.
Well, obviously they shouldn't do that.
Or they accept that polished phrase, spearheaded an enterprise-wide transformation, because it sounds great. And then the client gets into a job interview, gets asked to explain the enterprise-wide rollout, and completely falls apart.
Right. The stall.
The logging, the safe source packets, it's the architectural framework that allows an advisor to use modern tools without violating client trust or destroying the client's credibility.
Which actually brings us to another profound tension in the source material regarding the actual software environments these candidates are using.
Okay, yeah.
The curriculum makes a very clear, deliberate distinction between what it calls AI Assist LPR training mode and the record automated.
Yes, and that distinction is crucial for understanding the capstone.
But look at how they are applying it. For the listeners who aren't steeped in the technical architecture, AI Assist LPR training mode is essentially a sandbox environment.
Right.
It's what the candidates use during certification. They manually prompt the AI, they govern it, they catch its mistakes. Eventually, once certified, they will be using the record automated, which is the platform's proprietary integrated engine, where a lot of this plumbing and structural formatting is automated behind the scenes.
Exactly.
The curriculum explicitly warns candidates not to become dependent on automation before they understand the manual method. It states they must understand what the automated system is doing, quotes, underneath the surface.
Yes.
Yet, they are forcing candidates into the AI Assist sandbox during the final test. They are demanding engagement with an artificial text generator at the precise moment candidates should be proving their ultimate mastery of the pure manual extraction method.
But that's...
If certification is about proving you don't need the automation, why mandate the artificial assist to graduate?
Because the only way to prove you truly understand what the automation is doing underneath the surface is to manually govern a raw general AI tool yourself.
Is it the only way, though?
I think it is. If the Academy just tested manual extraction, like just interviewing the client and writing a document, an advisor might pass, get out into the field, and blindly trust the black box of the record automated because they never had to wrestle with the raw flaws of a language model. By forcing them into that sandbox environment, forcing them to write the prompt, catch the hallucinations, log the generic language, and manually revise it, the Academy bridges the gap.
I see the theory.
The candidate walks away knowing the mechanics of how AI invents, how it inflates, and how it genericizes. That means when they eventually use the streamlined automated tool, they will never blindly trust it. They've seen the sausage being made. They know the underlying chemistry.
I hear the logic, I do, but I worry deeply about the long-term normalization of this behavior.
In what way?
If you train an entire generation of advisors that every comprehensive professional record must pass through an artificial intelligence filter, even if it is strictly governed, even if they have to fill out a dozen translation logs, you are implicitly accepting that human-to-human translation is insufficient.
Well, sometimes it is.
The text warns us about AI generic language. It gives the perfect example, actually. Results-driven professional with a proven ability to leverage cross-functional collaboration.
The worst.
Right? It sounds polished, it uses excellent grammar, and it means absolutely nothing. It is devoid of the operational texture we keep coming back to. Even if the advisor uses the manual revision step to add that texture back in, the process fundamentally alters the relationship between the client's raw truth and the final surface.
I wouldn't say it alters it,
We are mandating a detour through the uncanny valley of corporate buzzwords. Why not just go straight from the client's authentic, manually extracted truth to the final rendering?
Because we can't go straight to the final rendering. We have to deal with the economic reality of how systems read these records today.
The algorithms.
Yes. The curriculum talks about the dual necessity for a rendering to be both human believable and machine readable. If an advisor just uses the client's raw truth, it might be incredibly authentic. It might have tons of operational texture.
Which is a good thing.
It is, but it might completely lack the structural phrasing, the keyword density, and the role alignment necessary to actually travel through modern digital applicant tracking systems and hiring algorithms.
Okay, fair.
AI is incredibly useful for that structural translation. It acts as a bridge. It can suggest search terms, adjacent titles, and external wording patterns that the human advisor might not instantly recall. The candidate isn't detouring into the uncanny valley just for fun. They are using the model's vast statistical dataset to build a structural bridge so the client's authentic truth can actually reach its destination.
But at what cost to the truth itself?
That's why they are taught that while AI can help with the structure, the record, the underlying evidence, must supply the trust. That delicate balance is exactly what the rigorous steps of the capstone test.
Look, I don't disagree that AI has utility for machine readability. We know how modern hiring systems work, and yes, navigating algorithms is part of the game.
Right.
My contention remains entirely with the mandate. When you mandate the use of AI in a certification capstone, you are making a definitive statement.
And that statement is?
You are saying that an advisor candidate who flawlessly extracts a client's truth through brilliant interviewing, maps the claims perfectly to the evidence, maintains absolute privacy, and manually drafts a beautifully accurate system-ready narrative, has somehow failed to demonstrate competency.
Well,
why? Simply because they didn't run it through a large language model and fill out an AI translation log. That is a profound pedagogical failure. It elevates the tool above the truth.
that's a bit extreme.
It says the bureaucratic methodology of interacting with the machine is more important than the mastery of the underlying discipline of understanding human professional capability.
Okay, that's a powerful critique, but I think it fundamentally misidentifies what the Academy is certifying.
How so?
If the Academy were just certifying resume writers, you would be absolutely right. A great writer doesn't need an LLM, but they aren't certifying writers. They are certifying living professional record advisors.
Yes.
And a core competency of that specific advisory role in this specific technological era is the ability to protect a client from the pitfalls of artificial fluency. The curriculum states this plainly. The Academy certifies source-governed AI judgment.
I know it does, but
By making the AI workflow mandatory, by forcing them through the safe source packets, the output claim checks, the logging of rejected claims, they guarantee that absolutely no advisor enters the market without having personally felt the friction of rejecting a beautifully written, perfectly grammatical lie that a machine generated about a human being.
The friction is just administrative, though.
No, the candidate has to experience the temptation to accept the fluent lie because it sounds so good and saves so much time, and they have to practice the discipline of rejecting it. If they don't do it in the capstone, we have no proof they will do it when they are tired, overworked, and staring at a deadline in the real world.
Well, we are clearly looking at the exact same curriculum, the exact same update patch, and seeing two completely different long-term realities.
That's for sure.
We agree on the foundational principle of Module 7. Fluency is not evidence.
Absolutely.
The curriculum provides a deeply thoughtful framework for understanding the limitations and the active risks of large language models. It correctly identifies that AI inflates scope, invents outcomes, and genericizes unique human experience.
Yep.
But I will never agree that this bureaucratic gauntlet is the right way to build an advisor. Mandating the use of this tool in the final capstone, forcing a heavy, tedious workflow of safe source packets and translation logs onto what should be an exercise in truth extraction, risks making the tool a permanent crutch.
I just don't see it as a crutch.
It unnecessarily complicates the process and subtly but permanently shifts the advisor's identity toward compliance auditing rather than foundational record building. The risk is that they become experts at managing AI rather than experts at understanding people.
And I maintain that without that gauntlet, your advisor is going to get eaten alive by the modern market.
Eaten alive?
Yes, because fluency is no longer evidence of truth in the broader world. Making AI governance a mandatory, heavily logged hurdle in the capstone is the only responsible way to certify an advisor today. We cannot pretend the professional ecosystem is pure.
I'm not pretending it's pure, I'm just...
Clients will use AI to inflate their histories. Algorithmic systems will read those histories, and the LPR advisor must stand in the middle as the bulwark of truth. The mandatory requirements, specifically the AI output claim checks and the rigorous logging of rejected claims, ensure that the advisor has the practical, tested muscle memory judgment to tether artificial language back to governed evidence.
Muscle memory for spreadsheets.
Muscle memory for truth. It is the only way to ensure they know how to protect the client's actual voice in an increasingly automated world.
Well, despite our disagreement on the mandate itself, it is clear we are absolutely aligned on the curriculum's core philosophy. The doctrine that the record governs AI, AI does not govern the record, is perhaps one of the most important concepts for any professional to understand right now, regardless of their industry.
I couldn't agree more.
We both recognize that human review is mandatory and that the client must own the final representation. Our tension really just lies in whether a forced administrative capstone requirement is the optimal vehicle to instill those values into the next generation of advisors.
I think that perfectly encapsulates the divide. And, there is so much more to explore here, particularly as the LPR moves further away from the sandbox training modes and fully integrates the record automated platform tools in the future.
Oh, definitely. That'll be a whole other discussion.
It forces all of us to constantly interrogate how our professional standards must adapt to new technologies without losing the soul of the work. So, we'll leave it to our listeners to evaluate the merits of the mandatory AI requirement for themselves. But as you think about it, remember our art authenticators from the beginning of the discussion.
Right.
When the surface becomes too easy to fake, you have no choice but to build a rigorous, systematic process to test the substrate. You have to prove the chemistry beneath the paint.
Because once the naked eye can be fooled by a flawless surface, the method of verification simply has to evolve.
Precisely. The forgery has evolved. The authenticator must evolve too.